I mean, I think it's the transition, but you've got to decide where there is that space and time where you've got to just jump as much as we can, as much as we've got intelligent entrepreneurs out there, we can narrow the gap, right? But at some, it will never touch. And at some point there is a leap of faith that you need to take.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with your ability to believe in yourself. It's one of the things that happens a lot with my clients, which is I can believe in my clients more than themselves, but I can never want it more than them. They have to want it.
So you've caught on. You've realized that the digital real estate game is taking over the physical real estate game. What I mean by that is every real estate transaction that occurs these days starts with a digital asset, such as this phone. Whether it's an interface, whether it's a software, whether it's a system, whether it's the MLS, whether it's an Airbnb, a Verbo, it starts with a digital touch point. So in the digital asset series, we are gonna talk about marketing. We're gonna talk about digital marketing. We're gonna talk about content. We're gonna talk about branding. We're gonna talk about the very own things or verticals that lead to real estate transactions, which you will realize that the majority of them are all virtual. This is why we're starting this segment, because as important as we understand physical real estate is and will always be, indestructible because people will always need a place to live, we understand that now technology is playing a whole different ball game in the real estate space, and you want to make sure that you have this on your tool belt and you understand how to leverage these digital assets so that you can have these experiments that can then lead to these physical assets. Now, the same rules of the game apply as they always do in the lab. Get your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today, I have the pleasure of, again, welcoming, I feel like again, because we've been hanging out virtually on the air, but I'm just so excited to officially get her into the lab, as we call it, and that is Cat Stancik. She is here live. She is bubbling with energy and colors, as you can see. I love the background, by the way. You got to match the branding thing. She's got it down pat already. So I'm super excited. Just to give you some background. So you guys know, I met Kat through a mastermind. If you guys know episode 84, Jason Van Orden connected us. And I was just been so thrilled. Kat's added so much value to myself. And so I'm like, okay, we got to get this thing on the air. Well, she actually initiated, because that's how Kat is. She's like, listen, Ruben, we got to make this happen. And so we are here today, and we got Kat, but like, let me give you a little bit of context, because Kat calls herself a business strategist, okay? And she helps people scale, people, not just people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, people are already getting some traction. She helps them really strategically strategize. She's the author of the 7 Principles for a More Productive and Fulfilling Life, Lead Boss System. This is your girl. She is here in the lab with us, and we're going to extract some of that strategy. Welcome to the lab, Kat. What is up, girl?
Oh my God, I'm going to go 8th grade. The sky.
Of course. So Kat, listen, this is so funny, because I literally just said, Jason connected us, and to put things into context, I'm actually pulling this up. I remember Jason, when he came on, he was talking about helping thought leaders create digital courses and content, right? Thought leaders. And you know a thing or two about working with thought leaders, because that's what you do. And I remember last time we were talking offline, or when we had a little huddle, we were like, Ruben, I call myself a business strategist. And I was like, okay, cool, I got you. So I changed everything on my phone. I'm like, okay, business strategist. This is what she does. You're very adamant about that. Mm-hmm. Why are you big on the business strategy component of what you do for others? And why do you call it that and not anything else?
So, you know, when you tag the name business or and people, and you think about strategy and consulting and all that stuff, people tend to tag the coaching. Now, honestly, I do have certification, meaning I am actually accredited by the ICF. I'm about to have my MCC, which is the highest level of accreditation. Yes. Something on, and that's another certification on the wall, if you will. But it's been so saturated so that the term coach actually becomes devalued, whereas it used to be hype valued. And really, that's not what I do, right? And so when someone says you're a business coach, I'm like, not really, because I come from a consulting background, meaning I worked at a top, consulting firm, international top consulting firm. I tend to actually like to tell people what to do. So really what that comes down to is I'm a strategist. And so I look at what is that something is doing, because a lot of people, when it comes to business, are playing checkers and they really should be playing chess. Right. And so they're only looking at what is that next move instead of trying to anticipate what the market might do, how it might respond, and what it is that they really should be focusing on. Because sometimes to get to the other side of the board, you're going to have to, kind of sacrifice a couple of pawns, right? And so looking at what is that structure and what is that strategy that's really going to help you build the empire that you're wanting to leverage and build for your business, and leveraging coaching capabilities when needed, right? So yes, if there's a mindset block, because we do know that, business is 80% mindset and 20% skill set. But if you don't have the skill set and the mindset's all wonky, right, that's not, helping you out in terms of your business. So I really focus on the strategic aspect of things, because it really gives me permission, if you will, carte blanche, to be able to really support my client in the best way that serves them and not kind of force them into one methodology.
Okay. So I love, by the way, this is a sign from the universe. You said the whole chess thing again, and I just picked up the book, My Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's, I started reading it this morning. It's super, I love Patrick Bet-David. We got to get him in the lab one of these days. But the reason I'm saying this, to bring it full circle, is that he talks about essentially how you need to, most of us have one move or two moves, if at all. But if you're like the chess masters, they got like 12 moves ahead.
Yeah.
And so I want to just let's jump on that for a second. You say mindset. Most of us, when you hear mindset, it's like, think positive, do great, meditate.
For those of you listening to the audio, I just rolled my eyes.
She's rolling her eyes and she almost threw up. So let me prevent this from happening. Can you tell us what you define as like the mindset, or like if someone's listening is like, okay, what is a mindset? Is it positivity? Is it actually like defining where my compass is headed? Like what is the mindset? And
honestly, it comes down to one word, for me at least. It's possibility. So how are you staying in a world where things are possible? So, you gotta and it encompasses having a quote unquote positive mindset. Like you can be in a negative space, but know that something is still possible. So we are limited by our ability to imagine. Right. So if you cannot feel that something is possible, then it cannot be. Right. And so if we grow our possibility spectrum, if you will, and allow more things to be possible, allow more, outcomes to be realized, then we can continue to grow. And that's kind of like that 7-12 move strategy, which is not just what's possible tomorrow or next year, what's possible 3 years from now, 5 years now, 10 years from now. Right. And into the infinity. And what I find is that most people find it really hard to connect to a 3 to 5 year term. They can connect to a 10-year. They can connect to, I want to be the next Oprah, right? They can connect to what I can make in terms of money and revenue and what my business will look like this year and maybe next year. But thinking beyond that space seems to be this black box, right? And a lot of times that's what happens in business, is because they don't understand what goes into creating that 10-year vision or 20-year, right? That ultimate vision that's at the other side of the box, and where they are now, and seeing the beginning of where the black box starts. In the black box, this is going to piss people, is systems and processes, people.
Oh, come on. I thought you were going to give us come on, just like the secret formula to like.
It is. It's the unsexy truth, right? Which is, in order for you to continue scaling your business, you must multiply yourself. How do you multiply yourself other than to know exactly how you do what you do and enable other people who do it better to support you in it? Okay.
I want to go down that path, but I can't let this one slip through the cracks. Right? Because you said possibility. And when you were saying that, I was like, I'm listening. But there's so many possibilities and directions I could go into with that word possibility. So one, or is it more from there's two things I want to cover. So I'm going to write the other one down. So is it more of the possibility of what I can do or where the marketplace is going? Like, should I be operating from an I or what's happening out there? Because I wasn't sure if you meant like what's possible in the marketplace based on my skill set. Like, is that what you're thinking? Or is it like what's possible for me?
Like if we're focusing on ourselves, that's the checkers, right? Because you're looking at kinging and queening yourself, right? If we're looking at the chessboard, you have to anticipate not just what your moves are, but what are your opponent's moves going to be? And what could they be in conjunction with what alternative move you might have made, right? So that's the thinking. It's, yes, we are the center of our own universes. What are the other planets that are orbiting us, right? What are the other galaxies that are within proximity? Like understanding our environment, not just from a current physical space, but what the opportunities are beyond that. And so that's where people get tripped up and start being like, I can't think about that. I can't anticipate it. And the only thing you can do is really, as you're moving along, keep your eye on the horizon and on that single dot. What is that destination? And as things happen, because you can anticipate to a certain extent, but it's also how you react to when things go wrong, because things are going to go wrong. Right.
Let's and I want to touch on that because you said things will go wrong, and that's what I was thinking. Things will also change. So when you say 10 years, I'm thinking like I plan by the quarters. So is that like, and when I say that, like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and I'm super excited to, we're gonna unravel the systems part because I want to hear how you think, okay? Because I'm learning from you as well today. But 10 years, like we don't even like, is that like how far out should one be thinking? And again, we're not going to give it a hard rule. Cat said 3, so it's 3. But just to give an understanding,
so
is it 3 months, 3
answer.
years, 30? Like, what are we doing?
People think of things in terms of physical space and time.
Uh-oh.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about energetically. Oof, okay. How do you want to feel 10 to 20 years from now? It may not be any different than right now. And so that's the focus, is how do I continue to grow and potentially scale and still feel like I am the master of my time? Because at the end of the day, 2 assets, money and time. You're exchanging one for the other all the time, every day, minute by minute. And you're only ever going to run out of time. So there's this, I think it was Confucius or some smart old dead guy. It's just, we're going here. Okay.
She's just so raw, right? I mean, Kat, thank you for always telling it like it is. I love it. Some dead guy that left us some knowledge. Let's build on it.
Right. So let me try to drop it relatively right. So there's a guy in a boat, right? And he's fishing, and there's a guy on the shore, and I'm probably not sharing it the right way, but I read it once and it was a while ago. So the guy's fishing in the boat, yelling across to the shore at the guy on the beach saying, "Why aren't you fishing?" And the guy goes, "Well, I fished the fish I needed to fish today. I'm done. I'm good. Like I can do the things I need to do." "Well, you have more time, so you should go out on the boat," says the guy in the boat. "Go out on a boat and get more fishes. And then what you can do with the fish is buy nets, and then you can get more fish, and then you can sell those, and you can keep building, your business so that you have one like me." And the guy says, "Why should I do that?" And he goes, "So then you can finally retire and enjoy life." And the guy on the shore goes, "What do you think I'm doing right now?" Neither are wrong, but both had a vision for themselves.
Yeah.
And so what is that vision for yourself? What is the kind of life that you're wanting to live? Someone who says, "I want to be making $2 million a year, and I want to have this mansion and these 5 cars and, right? And they're so hyper-focused on the monetary and materialistic aspect of things that they also don't take into consideration the fact that maybe they'll develop 3 ulcers, right? Gain 50 pounds, get divorced, and alienate their children. Right? So it's not just the tangible material aspect of things, but how do I want to feel? And what are some of the things that I can point to that would show me along the way that I am progressing towards that space and time?
Yeah. So Kat, thank you. You're literally setting me up here. So I heard you loud and clear. So maybe, okay, there's these things that I want. It's a checklist. We all have it perhaps. But you're saying that's not enough. You need to go a little bit deeper, right? As to like what you want to feel. So what should be, and I know you're going to dive into the system that perhaps you're using or advising your clients at a macro level, but let's give a tactical example for our listeners of how that one person who wants the big house of 5 cars, like what should he or she be saying instead, or even feeling or like being aware of at the moment? Like what is that? Like, so we can kind of get some of that transition. What does that look like?
To get from here to there we're just going is all gratitude. You cannot, and I actually want to take that and change it. It's not just gratitude, it's appreciation.
Okay.
Gratitude is a moment in time and specific, right? Appreciation appreciates. When we appreciate something, we open ourselves up for more.
Interesting.
Right. And so how do we appreciate? We recognize what we have and we project the things that we want as well. When we do those things in conjunction, what happens is that time and space, as we know, does not exist, right? Like it doesn't. I mean, conceptually, yes, in our human brains, we have to have time. There's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? But just like when we look back and we think about, wow, I remember when I was 5 years old trying to tie my shoes, that felt like yesterday, which is why we know time doesn't exist. So tomorrow and 10 years from now will feel just like that. But right now, when we project forward, it feels far away. When we look back, it feels close by. So when we mesh the two in our mind, they become our current reality. When we appreciate the things that we have and we appreciate the things that we desire, it creates our ability to manifest those things into our life faster.
Got it. So if I'm sitting in your office or we're doing this thing virtually like we are right now, and I'm coming in with a, you want a clean slate, carte blanche, kind of like what you said earlier. What are some of the questions that, either I'm taking home and asking myself, or kind of maybe a kind of a process system, because I know you touched on that a little bit. Like, how does that look like if you're, you and I are working together?
I think part of what I do is I help manage the reality of the physical space, right? Of helping you make more money and helping you understand how to do that faster so that you on your end can connect to that space, right? So I am not the mindset guru, right? Kind of thing. I can go there, I can talk about it. But if you take care, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Mm-hmm. In order to get to the highest level of self-sustainability, enlightenment, whatever you want, everybody has these triangles. You have to take care of your basic needs first, which my clients, they're above that, right? But that's true. If you're worried about being able to pay your mortgage, you cannot think about the possibility. It feels almost impossible to be a place where you have 3 vacation homes, that you're working, you have passive income, blah, 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 which might be one person's version of a dream. Another person is just the mastery of time and being able to spend it doing the work that they love, whatever that looks like. So once you get to that next place where you have a business, right, that's taking care of those lower level needs, food, shelter, water, all that good stuff, then you can start being able to progress up the pyramid faster by leveraging ranks in the ladder, right? So the rungs in the ladder is you've built that first level. It's just easier to add on. It's like pieces of a puzzle. Think of it this way. If we have a puzzle, what's the first thing that we do? We build the outside framework because it's the easiest piece to do. They all have flat edges, we understand. And then we start filling in the middle. But what we do first before we do that is we've built the outside structure and we start piecing the pieces that are similar in color together. Then we start looking at the picture because we know what the picture is and we start trying to group them together. And we know as we progress, things are getting faster and faster and faster. And we all know the feeling of when that puzzle piece just slips into place and you hear that little click. Those are the indicators, and we get them all the time, that we are on our path.
I love that. So one of the things you touched on, which I think is so important, and I'm glad you highlighted it, is the primal needs, right? Food, shelter, like it's like this baseline, right? That you got to have covered. And I actually want to go there because sadly enough, not a lot of people have those baselines covered. And I think it's relative to lifestyle too, right? Sometimes it's, you make more money, you get a bigger house and you get a better car. And then, so there's not a lot of that, financial freedom per se to speak. And I truly believe, and I think I read this somewhere, I forget, Kat, where it was at, but it was said something to the point, I thought it was amazing. It was like, if you give people financial freedom, then you allow them to be the best versions of who they can really be, because when we're trying to just, hustle and bustle, we don't get to work on our craft. We don't get to work on our calling. We don't get to actually help other people. Actually, I think I just saw a post the other day, like making 100K a year is like a selfish goal because you can't help enough people. So it was saying like, when you have that abundance, you can actually do more with it. And humans would do more if they had more. So the question is, how do you get more? So what would you say when you're, and I know that this isn't necessarily your clientele, but it's something I'm very passionate about, at least accomplishing a financial freedom. You talked about removing yourself from the picture. What are some things that someone listening, maybe who's kind of like on the verge of maybe that they're making good money, but it's still like they're drained after, it's still an exchange of time and money. What is the thing that you would advise, or maybe that you've seen works, or that you think is a good foundation that would cover those needs at their level? And I know it's a loaded question, but I'm opening up the conversation. I'll chime in because I have read a book that I really live by, but I want to hear what you say first, because I like hearing what Kat says, and Kat's smarter than I am and more experienced. So Kat, what are your thoughts? Because I want to bounce around these ideas in a lab here. Like, what are your thoughts of covering those needs? Like, what's a good, effective method to get that first building block?
Know your value.
Know your value. Okay, so like knowing your value, does that mean, okay, if I know my value and I can get paid X
know
amount
your
of
value, but be willing to go after it, right? So knowing your value isn't just saying, I know I'm worth this, it's receiving it as well.
Okay.
So a lot of people, and I deal with a lot of action takers because I am an action taker. I can do like nobody else. Give me a blueprint, give me a framework, and I'll knock it out like nothing else.
Yeah.
Being is a whole different story for us, right? And so what is our capacity to receive? Are we so used to hustling and grinding and doing more stuff for less, recognition or less money and all that stuff just because, right? Or are we willing to create space in order for things to happen to us? And this looks like stop chasing the dollar. So many times when it comes to sales conversations and people trying to scale their business, it means making more. No, not necessarily. It could be charging more and working with less people, right? You have a formula for success that creates resonance in your body, in your soul, in your entire being, right? But so many people operate from a place of lack and dissonance.
Okay, so when you say know your value, is it more of, because I get that, it sounds like someone could cover their base, right, their primal needs by, I don't know, increasing their value proposition in the marketplace. I don't know. Is that what else?
Like knowing your value, like the pieces that go along with that, right, are like, are you working with the right level person? Because you could say, I really know that I'm worth a $50,000 contract, right? I know that if I do this, I can help other people, blah, blah, blah. But yet you're still speaking broke language because you are used to broke experiences.
Yes.
Right. So looking at how are you showing up in the world to receive it? Because that's one of the areas that I see a lot of people, it's like an Achilles heel. It's, I am comfortable working with these people. So I want to make more money and I want to leverage my time more effectively, but I'm not comfortable speaking to them. And so I'm going to continue to speak to them. And that's where the dissonance starts happening, which is, you're worth more. You want to elevate your audience, yet you are still speaking down to people that you are too powerful to serve. And they're saying no, and you're resentful of them. And then all of this friction starts happening in your business, and something that started being successful starts deflating. You don't know why, because you weren't ready, willing, able to stand up, step up, and be out there and be willing to fail almost again. I mean, entrepreneurship is one of the most difficult therapeutic experiences you can go through, right? Talk about putting yourself out there, triggering yourself left and right every single day, too much, not enough, right? All of those happen on a daily basis. Like, your willingness to evolve is directly tied to your ability to succeed.
You know what's crazy about that? Like, when you say that, I'm thinking of times of where, and this is something I'm learning to do now, which is hard too sometimes, because it's a balance. It's like saying yes versus no. So you have a client who comes into your pipeline and you're like, no, this is not going to be a good fit. And I have a friend who's really good at doing that. Shout out to Larry. But it's interesting because I think people do that too with jobs. It's like, I have an offer, I'm going to take the first offer, or I'm going to take what's available, or, this is a client. It's a client. Well, like, what I love about what you said, you have to choose and be very selective in the choices you're making. Again, playing the chess, which is really, I didn't even think you'd go there, but you tied that all together so well.
Well, and here's the thing. There's the reality of the situation, which I understand. Things happen, right? Like, there are plenty of people who have one or two clients and they're making it. And if one or two of those clients go away, you're done. So let's say that's a scenario that someone experiences, because it is a reality for a lot of people, right? I mean, COVID happened, right? And that became a lot of people's realities. Yeah. So what happens? You start chasing the dollar. Maybe you lower your standards a little bit. Now, I almost want to say that's okay if you go into it making an empowered decision. Meaning if you go into it saying, you know what, this client is 80% ideal, not 100%. And so therefore I understand that even though I am receiving this amount of money, I'm going to have to put X amount more time into this in order to support this client to create success, because I am of integrity and I want to make sure that this client succeeds and I deliver 100% of what I promised that I would deliver on. It's up to them to step up to their 100%. So we make this 200%, right? But I will do everything I need to do. Maybe sometimes it ends up being, right, that's that 110%, you tend to, scoot over the line kind of thing. Never have I or any of my clients ever experienced a very positive outcome from that. But at the same time, the exchange is you're providing for your family because there are financial responsibilities. There's no shame in the game, so long as you understand where you're keeping your eyes focused on. So that's kind of like, this client is my peripheral, but I'm still keeping focused on what it is that I'm trying to do. So yes, I'm lowering my standards this time. Make it a single point of decision, not a standard that you're lowering yourself to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love that. And I think what you're also saying is, means to an end, being very careful as well. If you're going to, do it to feed the family or put food on the table, realize that, it's kind of like acting. It's like you get one role, then you're stuck with that role. Right. Yeah. Because if people see you as like, oh yeah, Cat. Yeah, we need Cat for this. Because Cat played that last role.
I got my MBA because I started off right after college as an admin. And then I was a business manager,
We talked about
and then a business operations manager, which is just a souped up admin. And I did everything. I mean, I knew where all the bodies were buried. Like I knew everything. Like I was the right hand to the CEO, yet I was devalued. And the only way for me to break through was to be able to put on a new role, which was I was going to get my MBA. I did my MBA in 1.5 years while working full time because I was that determined. That was how clear I was on what it is that was possible for me once I went through this hurdle. And from there, the different things, the different doors started unlocking.
Yeah. Oh man, you're bringing all these core values of mine, like the compound effect, like just sticking it through, because you are narrow focus on this is where I want to go. And no matter how long it takes, I will be on that right path and I will get there. So this is interesting because it's like, I think what happens even in our business now, and I have this conversation with my coach sometimes, it's like, well, he's like, well, you're speaking to the wrong avatar. Like your messaging is off. That's why you're getting this kind of, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Of course, that makes sense. Like if I'm trying to get to these corporate clients, I should be speaking their language and this language, like that makes sense. And I'm wondering if, I guess what I'm wondering is sometimes people are always looking for that proof of concept, like to get that, momentum going. And sometimes I wonder, what would you think? Is it better off to gain some traction with the, people that you don't want, so you are spinning and you get that confidence and maybe you're building up? Or is it like, no, it may look like you're not gaining any traction, but you're not going to accept any of this if you can afford to until you land the right person so that you're not on the right path or on the right exit? Like, which one do you think, again, with respect to where people are in their lives, which one would you choose if you had?
I think the reality is, like those are like, I think it's the transition, but you've got to decide where there is that space and time where you've got to just jump as much as we can, as much as we've got intelligent entrepreneurs out there, we can narrow the gap, right? But it will never touch. And at some point there is a leap of faith that you need to take.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with your ability to believe in yourself. It's one of the things that happens a lot with my clients, which is I can believe in my clients more than themselves, but I can never want it more than them. They have to want it. I can see a bigger future for them. So basically what they're doing is they're borrowing my confidence in their ability to succeed. When you are not confident in yourself, borrow someone else's. That's why people get coaches. That's why they get support, because those people are unabashedly committed to your ability to succeed because they are not hindered by your fears. Borrow someone's confidence.
Interesting. So, Kat, this is interesting, and we talked about this too, and it's so funny because you hear people say that, oh, Kat gave me the permission to reach out to the client, like, right? I mean, that's sometimes like the language people will use, which I think is really cool how you put it as borrowing. Now, let's talk about that. Once you've covered the base where, and I think that's where people need to get to, right? Like the primal needs. Once you've covered that, I had a good business partner of mine. He's just like, or a good friend, ex-business partner. He was like, hey, I just took some time off to just look at things from a bird's eye view, which is, you know, like almost like what a general would do. Like just, okay, where are the pieces? Where are we going? And
which is
so
also
when
why chess players will stand on their chairs and look at the board from a higher level, or they'll walk around the board, because what they're looking for is a different perspective. They're trying to see what they're missing from sitting in a single focused position.
Okay, so phase 2, right? We've covered our primal needs. We are in that position. What am I looking for now that I've gotten that first block done? Is it going back to, okay, I can live on this, I'm okay. Are you still going back to here? Or are you going back to more like systems? Are we at the systems part yet, please? Are we there yet, Kat? Are we there?
We're at the systems part, but here's the thing. And I remember asking this to my coach a long time ago. And when I was growing and scaling my business, and I was like, all right, awesome. I just did 100K quarter. What's next? Like, what do I do now? And he looked at me and he said, do it again. And I about threw my mouse at the computer, right? I was like, what do you mean do it again? What? I need something more than that. There has to be another strategy. There has to be another tactic. Like, what am I going to do to make more money faster? And he looked at me and said, do it again.
Why?
Do it again, because you cannot dismiss what you achieve to luck. When you repeat your success, you are demonstrating that you have the capability, which means that you are reinforcing your ability to believe in yourself and to deliver consistently in your life.
So that's, you know what's crazy? I've been literally listening to, I mean, you see this all the time, right? Like people will lose all the money in the world, like who have made a lot of money. And then would you say it's, they have the tools, or do they have the confidence to make it back? Like, which one is it? Cause some people will be like, oh, I think, did I catch a lucky break? Cause luck does happen. But I think some of those people, like when their companies fail, they go bankrupt and then they make it all over again. Do you think it's in it at that point that it's just like, okay, I know I can get it back? Or do you think it's more that or maybe it's a little bit of both. It doesn't have to be like, which one is it? Is it like they have the strategies and they have the confidence, or is it one over the other? What would you say?
I think it's definitely a combination, right? And so like when someone loses it all, what happens is that they lose confidence, right? What happens when they lose it all is self-sabotage, right? Which is their ability. Yeah, well, I mean, but that's their ability to, you know, believe, like what they are not open to the possibilities, meaning they have a ceiling in their life. It could be a financial ceiling. It could be whatever aspects of your life that can be measured, which is everything, but they've hit a ceiling. And it's kind of like, so I'll talk about the financial thermostat, right? Which is basically, we all have an innate amount of money that we believe we can earn. We make more than that, we sabotage ourselves back down to it. We make less than that, we hustle our ass off to get back to that place.
Oh, that's so true.
So
wait, do you actually think, where are we getting this from though? Like, I can only make X amount, like, because you see this all the time with like people who lose money, or I don't know, I don't want to go to the celebrity route, because sometimes that's a poor example. There's sometimes lack of financial literacy. But at the same time though, it's a lack of financial literacy, wouldn't you say? Or do you feel
confidence?
Damn. That's crazy.
Right. And so what are we doing to constantly raise that thermostat? It's a conscious action. You have to be cognizant of your mindset. So a lot of people talk about, you know, mindset and all this other stuff, and people go, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then they forget it. Mindset is a skill set, right? It's basically mental dexterity. It's physical aspect of your mind to be able to see the possibilities and to withstand difficulties when, because they will occur. Do you have the mental dexterity to be able to push through your own self-sabotage? And what are you doing to work out? People work out their bodies, but they don't work out their minds.
How do I work on my mind, Kat?
Like it's, so, you know, now we're going into like law of attraction stuff, right? Which is,
oh, really? So that's the route you would go. You wouldn't even say like, because I'm curious, because
well, there's pieces. So one of the easiest things you can do is, you know, a lot of people are always trying to project forward. One of the easiest things you can do is see where you've come from. So think of a rocket. It has a projection. So if we stop the rocket mid-level in the sky, it's going to continue so long as you look back to see where you came from. You have built evidence over your life to demonstrate your ability to succeed. Now, whether you dismiss it is another thing.
But wouldn't you say that sometimes we lean too much on people live on their past too much? Like you're as good as your last game. Like, because this is interesting what you're saying. I feel like it could go both ways. And I'm just playing devil's advocate for the sake of the conversation here. Like, I'm thinking if it's kind of like the person who introduces themselves, hey, for example, bestseller book, like this, that, achieve this, won gold medal, blah, blah. Okay, great. But sometimes then do you like rely on those past successes to propel you forward? And maybe it's a good thing or maybe it's a bad thing because now you're not doing what
you got to put the pieces together, right? Like if there's a single piece of the puzzle that's missing, then your picture is incomplete. So the aspect is it's looking at your past. So it's where do you need to be bolstered in your confidence to continue to move forward, right? And also your ability to release, because sometimes that may not be your path. Like maybe you've been looking over here and it's 2 degrees to the left. Right? So looking at the past in terms of looking at your capability to overcome builds your confidence. Connecting to the future that you're wanting to achieve can build your passion and your motivation. Right? So what are the ingredients to the recipe of your success? They're not the same as mine. They're not the same as yours. But throughout life, you have created a recipe that is unique to you, might be similar to other people's, that help you create success, that help you overcome obstacles. And so, we all have the same ingredients, meaning we have flour, rice, flour, eggs, milk, water, all that stuff. Those same ingredients can make a pancake, can make a loaf of bread, can make a cake. Like we've got sugar, right? We had some spice. Now it's a carrot cake, right? So we all have these ingredients, but your ability to reproduce your results is tied to your ability to create success in your life. So if you create a pancake one time and then a cake another, and then a piece of bread another time, that's not success. But you've got to identify first, what is it that you want to eat? And it's okay that right now it's a cake and maybe 2 years from now it's bread. Maybe you've gotten gluten intolerance. And so we're going to replace it with almond flour, right? Like these things happen, but can you reproduce the thing to help you get the results? That's what basketball players do. Right? It's all great and fine to have a coach and I can read the playbook, but until my feet get on the court and actually practice the game, I cannot call myself a player. It's practice. And that's why we leverage other people to help modify and help us continue. But it's basket in, basket in, basket in.
Okay. So Kat, going back tactically, and I want to connect this to your ingredients example because I think it's a good one. And by the way, I would have kept the rice in there. I don't know, you scratched that out.
I think I'm saving it. Like
you're like rice. I'm like, no, that's fine.
Smell it in the house right now.
I grew up on rice, so you better keep that ingredient in there. Right. But if we're listening, what is and I'm not gonna go so wooey so much. But more of like, okay, what are some good ingredients that you've seen when you're helping someone is better than the other? And we could talk about this tactically. Like if it's like, yep, they got a coach, check mark. Yep, they're using the right vehicle. Maybe what is that vehicle? What are some of those good ingredients that you see over time happen? And you touched on it, I think, a little bit when it comes to kind of scaling, maybe having teams. But what are some of those ingredients?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? But yes, I think it's understanding that humans, like, understand your nature. Human beings are not, mono living creatures, right? We are a community. We seek community. We enjoy community. Yes, some people are more introverted and extroverted than others, right? But is that sense of community. So we are not meant to do it alone. Unfortunately, a lot of societies train people on having to have this individualistic approach to things. And so especially, and I'm going to say it more so in women, we are expected to do things on our own. And any demonstration of where we are seeking help is an indication of weakness. So we are fighting societal pressures, right? So we are supposed to conform. You're not supposed to stand out, right? Now we're overcoming triggers in terms of too much and not enough, right? Which is what society does. Like when we go into the education system, you need to conform. We are being taught conformity because if you don't conform, you're causing problems for society. And we need people to be worker bees. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my favorite people in the world have jobs and they enjoy them. And they enjoy the flexibility of being done at 5-ish. Right? And that's fine, but that doesn't feed me. This is how you need to know yourself, right? And how our recipes differ from each other. So we're not supposed to do it by ourselves. Now, yes, there are financial considerations when you can and can't do something, but what are you letting yourself being driven by? Are you letting yourself being driven by fear or by possibility? right? And so that comes down to your ability to believe in yourself. If you're not believing in yourself, you cannot tie and attach to the possibilities of what you can achieve. So looking at, and now if we're looking at business specifically, it's processes, it's systems, it's teams, and it's your ability to get out of your own damn way. Too many businesses that I've seen where the CEO becomes the CEO and gets involved in the day-to-day, hashtag self-sabotage. It's your ability to release control and trust other people to do their jobs and to set up the structure which enables them to be successful, which comes back down to processes and systems and documentation. It's documentation, process, systems are the veins, it's the lifeblood of your entire business.
That's really interesting. So, and I'm glad you're going there because this is where I love it. I love it. So it's very, very interesting. I'm just trying to think of our listeners and okay, this is making sense. Like you laid the foundation, you started with the possibility, you started thinking, right? And then you started to gather the right ingredients or take care of the primal needs first, then pick the right ingredients. And now if we're talking business, it can also for yourself, it's also knowing where you are. Am I a worker bee? Am I a business owner? What drives me? Again, going back to the compass.
There's one more thing I just realized.
Yes, talk to me. Add it in there. We're building the pyramid. Focus.
So what I mean is, and this comes from, there's lots of books, but Essentialism essentially is the book that where I read it first, which is a lot of times, especially entrepreneurs, we all know the syndrome, right?
Do everything,
this, right?
Launching this, that, this.
So is it feasible for us to focus on one thing at a time? I don't think it's truly feasible. I think that it's just not the reality of the world that we live in. However, there are things that you can put more of your attention on. And understanding what things move your business forward at what stage of business you're in. What works when you were starting does not work when you're that next level, does not work when you're multiplying your 6 figures. It does not work at 1 million. It doesn't work at 1 billion. But those things that you went through still need to be in place in your business in order to enable you to continue to scale to the next level. So someone who's operating $1 billion+ company still has the same business processes in place as someone who's operating at 6 figures. It's that they've documented it and handed it off to other people. That's why you need to know these skill sets. It's why you need to know how to market and how to close and how to generate leads and how to get them to say yes. Because at some point you will, in fact, be able to hand them off to someone else and stay in your brilliance because you have a brilliance and it's not necessarily marketing and sales. If you want to do more of the work that you love, you have to enable people to find you so that you can do more of the work that you love. It is a cycle, but it's not one that goes round and round and stays stagnant. It cycles up. So long as you continue to do the work and focus on the activities that are going to continue to build your business forward.
That's great. That one hit at home personally. I really like that one. You know what's interesting? One thing that comes to mind, and I'm hoping if you're listening to this, maybe that's coming to your mind too, is, and this is probably going back to the trajectory of like, okay, maybe we'll when we cross that path, we'll figure it out and get there. What would you say to the person who's like, Cat, I don't know if I want like a lifestyle business or, like build a corporation? Because we all know that every corporation started out as literally everyone doing everything, right? And then you kind of grow and then you hire out. Next thing you know, you get departments and you get, right? And sometimes I honestly have that thought, right? When I think of like my agency and how we're growing, and I'm like, yeah, technically I could and like continue to grow. But then, what would you say? Do I need to just, does it go back to like Ruben or whoever's listening, where do you want to go? Because now I'm selfishly asking questions because just Cat's just so resourceful. Like, is it more of like you need to just often and do a little check of like a compass check as you're crossing these paths? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is when you're looking at what you're wanting to build for your business, are you building something you want, or are you building the things that other people expect to build?
Interesting.
Right. Well, so we all grew up with these projections onto us. You were expected to do X, Y, and Z. I was expected to get a higher level degree and to have a successful job. Yeah. Shocker. I have my MBA and I got a big, fat, fancy corporate gig. And I appreciate the experience. I appreciate the people that I was with. I see how it serves me now to do the work that I do, but it was killing my soul if I stayed there. It was a stepping stone to my evolution, not to someone else's idea of what I should be. It's why there are people that I cannot talk to entrepreneurship about. Can't talk to my family about it. They don't get it. I want them to get it. I crave for them to get it. They won't. It's not their world. It's why you have to create a community around you of people who understand. And it's about the 5 people you hang out with. Are you hanging out with people who are always bitching and complaining about how much they hate life, how their business sucks, and how they can't do X, Y, Z? Or are you hanging out with the aspirational people who are talking about, man, you know, next month, I'm going to do 100K a month and not 100K a quarter, right? And then next month, I'm going to do $1 million, like, and not progressively that way, but like, are you elevating your
network,
not only your network, but your audience, right? Because in keeping a pulse on how you're evolving is also connected to the kind of audience members you might be working with. Like you have to look for the omens that indicate that you're progressing on your path. They are there. It's just like opportunity. It happens every day, all the time. It's not a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's not true. It's not a reality. Opportunity is constantly around you. It's whether or not you're attuned to it. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on your lack, or are you focusing on the abundance that's possible for you? Where you are staying is a choice. Where you are going is a choice. Everything in your life is a choice.
Love it. So Kat, like, what are some shifts that you've had yourself personally? Because you're coming from, you've experimented, as we'd like to say here in the lab, in many different pots, right? Like from corporate to, you know, I mean, you name it, from coaching that you would not call, then transition into being a business strategist, you would really say, call yourself, to operating your own, you know, your own business, to writing your own book, to creating your own system.
Right. I mean, like,
what helped you jump from those, and what do you think was like one of the biggest lessons for yourself that you can kind of put onto the audience as well? Like, okay, this is what really helped me along the way, or this is what I shouldn't have done, or what are some?
So there's 2 things.
Ways?
One of the first things is, like many people in the world, I've had a lot of shit things happen to me. Right. And I have to watch my language. They happen for me. Right. The worst, horrible things. And there are people who've experienced worse things. There are many people who've experienced worse things, and there are many people who have experienced better things.
Yeah.
But I can only focus on they happened for me. And that happens through your own therapy. That happens through, you know, releasing the traumas and doing the inner work, right? Like, it's just, you have to do it, because everybody has big T's and little T's. And the other thing is, and I knew I had this at a very young age, and I believe all of us have it, but we get disconnected from it. It's your knowingness. You have to know that this is what you want, that this is what you're going for. You have to connect to that unabashed confidence that you're going to succeed. You have to be willing to fail and willing to, know that you don't know. Be willing to get the help, but it's that knowingness at the end of the day of, you know what? I don't know how I know, I just know. And I'm just going to hold that faith. And that's the fuel that replenishes me, that keeps me going. It's my energy source.
That's crazy. Excuse me here for the coughs. So putting it all together, like, what can you say as, lead boss system? What can you tell us into your ecosystem, how that really kind of comes into play at a high level, so people can kind of tap in a little bit more into what you're doing for others?
Yeah. So, we're a materialistic society. And the thing is that, just kind of like in life, we've all been provided examples, and sometimes they were good examples, sometimes they were bad examples. Yeah. And sometimes the person that got the attention was not exactly the greatest example of who it is to be as a human being, right? And I kind of feel like that's a little bit of what's happened a lot in terms of the digital marketing world, meaning the people that have been the most successful have also been hyper aggressive in terms of their sales strategy and their processes and how they go about closing business. I don't think it's unique to the digital marketing space. I think it's something that's very prominent when it comes to sales and marketing. And what I truly believe and what I know withstands the test of time, no matter what, in terms of economic, disasters, political strife, whatever's going on, this will always be true and will always work. When you value the relationship over the transaction, you will be more successful. You will be able to charge your worth and receive it because you're treating people like human beings. So when you're looking at growing and scaling your business, what are the mechanisms and processes in place that help you support that ideology? Meaning, how are you building community? How are you building connection? How are you having conversations? And how are you nurturing those relationships and that experience through to a potential close? Now,
Triple C's, right?
Yeah. And super fancy there. So here's what I want people to think about too when it comes to lead gen, right? Because for me, it starts with, if you got the right lead, it doesn't matter how you do your sales call, it'll still close.
That's really, can you say that one more time? I think that's so important. It goes back to your messaging, your target.
How I normally say it is, you can have the worst sales call possible and it'll still close if you have the right lead.
So let me build on that. Do you think it's because people, again, we just was on a call about this, going too broad versus being niche. Do you think it's beyond that? Do you think it's exactly just that, where people are just don't really know? So they say, yeah, I want to just help people. And it's like, bruh, people?
Yeah, so
what is it?
And it's not necessarily thinking about niche in terms of how it's, typically communicated. So a lot of people are like niche down, niche down, niche down. And it can be an energy. It can be, I want to work with a certain type of person, and it's not necessarily niche dependent.
So core values.
Right. Which is the most important thing to do. If you are one of those people who wants to work with people because, you don't have a niche, maybe you're not working with real estate agents, right? That's a niche, and it's a good niche and it works. And maybe that's not really where you want to focus. Maybe you like a little diversity in terms of the type of people you work with in terms of their industries, because your process can, is conveyed across them. What I would look at is, especially when it comes to, so my process is connect, converse, close. Right. So when it comes to the conversation, it happens like this, one-on-one, you're doing your networking calls, but it happens with your content. How clear are you with your own values and where your priorities are? Meaning your values from 10 years ago stacked are the same, but they are prioritized differently. So your values now, your number 10 value might be your number 1 value right now. How are you emulating those values? And how are you identifying them in other people? Through your content, right? That is how you create community. You are saying, I am honoring these values. You are the after to someone's before. If you are honoring the values that they currently are not, that is how you create client attraction. Because you are demonstrating that it's possible for them to live the life that they want. You are opening up the possibility for them to believe. And you're doing it not just by creating the Facebook facade, by saying, I am perfect, my house is super organized. It's saying, despite these things that I went through, I am still successful. It gives them permission to fail and succeed at the same time.
Wow.
So looking at how are you creating that content to create that connection, to create the community, to create the conversation, and nurturing them along, because we all know that where we were 2 years ago is not where we are now. Who are we following 2 years ago? Who are we following now? Who has stayed in touch? When you take care of the long-term game, the short-term game takes care of itself. So looking at the structure, do not dismiss a person. This is what I was going to say earlier, which is most people think lead client. That is the happy path. When we think of a process flow, right? The happiest path, the most direct path is lead to client. Yes, love it. Guess what? 3% of people at any given time are ready to buy. So you are leaving, actually, it's technically 77% of people on 57% of people opportunity on the table, because bottom 30% of people that you're connected to are never going to buy. Stop marketing to them. Stop marketing to the people who are never going to buy and who are just tire kickers. Let them unsubscribe. Let them leave your group. Let them leave your life. Let them find the person that will support them if they ever do. We're not worried about them. What we're worried about is getting, more of those 3% people booked onto a sales call. 7% of people are ready to buy if they need but they need a little bit more information. So what ecosystem and content are you providing for them to get that information so that they can get to the 3% level faster? 60% of people need to be nurtured. If you are just focused on people ready to buy now, you are leaving 57% of opportunity on the table. So what you do is you nurture people through. You do not judge them because they said no. I will take a no because I know that that no can turn into a yes because it's a not right now. So what is the experience that you're providing for someone so they nurture themselves up to the 3%? That can happen in 24 hours. It can happen in 3 years. But you got to take care of the long term so the short term takes care of itself.
Wow. I love that. And it's interesting that we started the conversation with, well, part of it was the core values, because would you say vulnerability helps in that case?
Yeah.
And is it big?
So you got to decide, right? There's
Yeah.
a private and personal line,
Yeah.
right? So Oprah, for example, you talk about Gail, you talk about even her sexuality, like she'll go there, like she doesn't want to go there all the time, but she'll go there. If you talk about Stedman, mic off, interview over. That is private. You don't go there. But Oprah is vulnerable. She will share things about herself, her weight issues, right? I mean,
do you think that creates a better connection, Kat? I'm sorry to cut you off, but do you think that again, it's different for everybody, but do you think
vulnerability in the moment and split in the time, it's the story behind it. Okay. So like I can say, hey, I used to be morbidly obese. Cool. All right. Good data point. All right. Let me tell you the story about how I remember that my worst place, I was eating an apple pie for dinner in a basement apartment with no windows, completely destitute and, just miserable and alone and all these other things. And let me tell you what I ended up doing. Here are the steps that I took in order to reclaim my life, because in that moment in time, there was 2 paths. One that was closer to not being alive anymore, and one where I had the opportunity to become the most successful version of myself ever. Same data point, different delivery.
Wow. So is that all embodied, what we just talked about as different pieces of that was the connection, and there was a converse. When you said the content, is that what you meant by converse, or does it go a little bit deeper?
Conversation happens like this, and it happens through your content. It's how you leverage your time.
Yeah.
You can have thousands of conversation through your content. You can help people move through micro yeses, right? So again, the lead is not just the person that buys, it's the opportunity it opens. Meaning, yes, lead to client is a path. Lead to sales call. So that we do lead, sales call, client, right? Lead, sales call can lead to networking opportunity, speaking opportunity, podcast opportunity, affiliate opportunity, power partner opportunity, friend, connector to connect me to other things like that. And each one of those reopens the door to those other things again. It is how you take one connection, one lead, and turn it into an infinite source of leads. If you're willing to value the relationship over the transaction, right? Almost looking beyond the transaction and seeing how you develop a relationship with people so that they become your brand ambassadors. When you provide a positive experience for someone, they want to share that with other people.
Do you think this is going to have to be a segment brought to you by Invested Talent, because you're doing such a good job appraising what we believe in is to, again, create purposeful content that adds true value,
right.
Tackling obstacles, tackling challenges, questions, and even inspiration and direction, right? Strategy. So how important has social media been for you and for maybe some of the your customers as part of the strategy to really double down on when it comes to this being, again, 2021 in June when we're recording this, when it comes to having that ingredient in your business?
I think you shared this right before we started recording, which was, it's a social media in terms of a platform and all that is an amazing asset when it comes to growing and scaling your business, because it takes you from out of just your local geolocation to the world. However, it's also a great way to connect in real life. So you went to an event, right, where you had met some people online, and it was just this instant connection of like, hey, you're real. And then just like almost, it was a heart-to-heart conversation, right? Like nothing you would have been able to have if you had just met that person in real life, or if you just kept the relationship online. Right? Like I actually wrote a book, co-authored a book, Experts Never Chase, with someone that I've never met in person. Right? It became a multi-bestseller, international bestseller in four different areas, right? In terms of sales and marketing and all this other stuff, entrepreneurship. And it was because we were able to build that connection. It would not have happened back before the internet, 1996, right? For example, before the internet was a thing, it just wouldn't have happened. So, you know, the internet is great, but, you know, as you know, there's the balance. And that's why sharing your stories and things like that, that's what creates that would-be human connection in a way.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've met people where I'm like, I feel like I know you. And we were just talking about this. I was on the air with Amy Woods. She's fantastic. And we were talking about how we connect with people that, you know, celebrities or athletes, because we have this medium that allows us to connect with what they're going through, their blood, sweat, and tears, their, you know, and so when you meet them in person, you know, you'll say something like, you're such an inspiration to me, or such a this and that. And it's because, again, it's a contact sport that doesn't have to be with contact. It's literally virtual contact that creates this virtual connection, or this spiritual connection even, and which then kind of goes back to the converse part. Which I think we all have the ability to be the superstars or athletes or celebrities or whatever in our own ecosystems and with our people.
Be the after to someone's before. That's what I mean by it.
I love that, by the way. Gosh,
you know,
be the after to someone's before.
Your ability to create the impact, right? Because look, we've talked about money, we've talked about systems and scaling, all that. Look, all of that is a reflection of your ability to make an impact. More money just means more impact. Like I talk about money because that's where people's egos are at. If I can't calm your ego down, I can't get you to make a heart-centered decision. I need you to understand and believe in yourself so that then you can make a baseline decision as to what is the right thing that will help support you to move forward in your business and in your life. But there's nothing better than being able, like, and this has happened to me, and it just, you know, it goes right to my ego because look, I love validation like anyone else does. I love a compliment, words of affirmation, like my love language, right?
Yeah.
Going out and being like, hey, you're Cat. And I'm like, who are you? Hi. But, awesome. You know, building that recognition, that connection with people, or having someone reach out to you and be like, you know, that actually made a difference, or I loved how you did that and that helped me do this.
Yeah, that's actually my love language too, Kat. So I will literally take, like, I've seen testimonials from some clients and it's like, you know, you cannot pay me for the rest and I'd be happy. Like this testimonial is like, just, this is why you do what you do. And
but that right there is another tool in your tool belt in terms of you being able to open up to the possibilities, right? It's looking at what you've achieved. It's raising your energetic vibration, right? Because you can't get to an evolved state if you're in a funky state, right? And so taking those, like, it's what I call it your awesome file. So what are the snapshots, right? The testimonials, the things that people said, like just all the little pieces that if you're in a funky mood and you start not being able to believe in yourself and you think you're going to fail, right? And you're just feel miserable. I'm talking about, like, if you're not wanting to quit your business on a weekly basis, you're probably not, you know, pushing yourself hard enough. Yeah. So on a weekly basis, going to that file and listening to that one case study, right? Like it's not you listen to it once and you experienced it. You get to experience it again. You get to be reminded as to how amazing you are. If that's what you need, feed yourself.
Kat, that's such good advice. I'm like thinking of, I have a file like that, but I'm thinking of doubling down and just looking through it again, because it does give you that fuel. And so on this topic, because again, thank you so much for giving so much value. I don't know if you remember when we were offline, so last time we talked, well, this time you talked about raving fans, which I think is super. And you talked about a special book. I don't know if you recall, you said it was Referral of a Lifetime, which is still here. I have it here. Why did you recommend that to me, Kat? And why is that so important?
So, you know, like, what's the easiest sales call to close? A referral. Like, it's just a validation. It's, are you creepy and weird? No. All right, let's work together. Right. Like, time and time again, and I've done it too, where someone's been like, there's someone you respected and they made a recommendation. Look what happened. I made a recommendation to buy a book. I didn't say, go buy this book, so you should check it out. And you went, you bought the book and you started reading it. You would have never known about it, or maybe you would have, but you hadn't heard about it until I recommended it, and you like it, I'm assuming, because you're bringing it up today.
Yeah.
So why would we make things harder in our business than they have to be? Why do we try to turn so many cold leads into buyers? So many people are always starting at the outside of the bullseye when it comes to, growing and scaling your business. Why? Because it's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing to do to just go and hit that connection request on LinkedIn and on Facebook. There's no emotional tie to it. You're not, it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
But when you connect with someone and maybe you pitch them online or you get them on a sales call, it energetically costs you. And you don't feel good. You get triggered, all that stuff. Because most people don't love sales. So that's who I'm talking to. If you love sales, go at it. Love you. Awesome. But why not help you make things easier? Why not create less friction in your life and your business? So at the bullseye are the people that are going to buy. And those are the conversations we should be following up with, people who said no, upselling, reselling clients, that kind of stuff. But we avoid it because we don't want to come across as sleazy or spammy. We don't want to get triggered by being rejected again, right? So we avoid it and we do the simple stuff. And so what I want people to think about is, in that bullseye, that's where we start. Our day and lead gen starts with follow-up and reaching out to the warm network of people to move them up to that 3% that I talked about earlier. Instead of trying to get someone who's down at the 60th percent all the way up to the 1%. It's easier to go 3 to 1 than it is go down to 60 to 1, right? I mean, we can wrap our heads around that.
Yeah.
So referrals are people who can quit, who would have maybe been in the 60%, get them up to the 1% faster, because someone else's know, like, and trust has been extended through them to you. It's someone who has already identified that they have a problem and that they're willing and ready to invest. The objections are less and easier to overcome. So make things easier. Have a system and mechanism to generate referrals for you. You don't have to be at the mercy of someone being in a good mood or remembering who you are. Now, I don't recommend building your entire business on referral, because then there's a lot of opportunity you can leverage. If you have, awesome. Now you have opportunity to be able to drive some other traffic to your business. And that all just depends. You talked about it earlier. Do you build a boutique agency, which is totally fine? Or do you go for that multinational corporation? Also fine. But you got to look at, what is it that you really want and what's the structure that needs to be in place. And this process, this system, referrals, needs to be part of your regular marketing outreach. Help people help you. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Wow. So you keep saying the know, like, and trust. You talked about, obviously converse or connect, converse, close. Bring it full circle. I got to ask you this, just from a database data point perspective. Of, you use a lot of different vehicles. I got to ask you, I know podcasting is kind of like how we met. How helpful has that been for you? Because I'm looking to always get some data from people. Like, do you use it as a strategy to, hey, by the way, we were talking about this topic, send it to someone? Do you use it as a strategy to
it's
network?
Just a waste of time. No. So
well, tell us why.
No, podcasting for me is lead gen. So podcasting for me opens up the doors to possibility. So again, not just that, the host might be a buyer. Maybe there's someone in the audience might be a buyer. It's not just that, right? I can't look at it single focused. I call it one-dimensional thinking, right? I have to look at what are all the multiple dimensional opportunities that are available to me. So we're connected, and therefore you will connect me to other people, because that's who you are. That's who I am. And then that will continue on and on and on. And that's how we take these connections and create a multitude of lead opportunities.
Yeah.
So I use it as a lead gen strategy, which encompasses all of these other opportunities that it provides me. And because it aligns to my strengths, which is dropping value, showing up, being entertaining, funny, engaging. If not, you've already dropped off at this point. Right. And creating a positive experience for people.
And Kat, I mean, you did just that today. You came into the lab. I mean, I don't know, you might have hit all of them, but you were inspirational, you were insightful, you had impact, you dropped value, you gave transparency. And that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I can't thank you enough for coming into the lab. And now I have to echo what you said, because it's 100% it. It's not like a zero-sum game like this. It's like, when we meet like this, you're top of mind. I'm like, okay, Kat does this. You said it. We can't let the Frenchies connection die off. So, we are going to build on this for sure. I cannot wait until this is live. If you're listening to it, it is currently live. But I'm looking forward to getting even more insights into your, what you're doing in your network and with your mission. And with that said, to all of our listeners who are listening to you, I know where I can find you. I got the direct plug, y'all. But for the rest of you guys who are listening right now, Kat, what are some current projects you're working on? The systems we talked about, the lead boss system, we talked about a lot. Where can we find and touch base with you? Where are you the most active? Where can we connect with you, Kat?
So I'm most active on both LinkedIn and Facebook, right? If you're looking for training and content and strategies and stuff like that, right? So it would definitely be in my my Facebook group. But if it's okay, I'd like to share some stuff with people that they can start stacking the wins now. Awesome. So I have a free gift for you guys. So there we've overcome that objection. And what it is, it's actually a 3-part kind of training, if you will. And so what I'm providing you with is, first, it's actually how to break out an hour of lead gen a day. So this is like, you only get this access to this when I'm speaking and sharing and podcasting, right? So otherwise you can't get to it. The other thing so how to break that out so that you're consistently filling your pipeline with ready to buy leads, right? The second thing that I share is actually social media swipe that you can leverage today to get the people that you're currently connected to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm ready to work with you, right? So what are some things that you can leverage that help you do that? These are some social media swipe examples, right? I have like 1,300 templates and 90 days worth of content prompts when it comes to my lead boss system. So I pulled some from there and sharing some with you. And then the third piece is actually the sales script that my clients and I use to get anywhere between 80 and 90% close rate. So it's, again, this is the framework. I always caveat this because it is not the magic script. It doesn't exist. What it is how you lead someone through the sales call. It's not just, oh, today we are going to set the agenda, 5 minutes. All right, so today we're going to do this. And then, right, we're not walking through it that way. It's about creating your flow and how you show up and leveraging your strengths and doing that and supporting your people on the other side of the conversation. Again, remembering that a lead is not just a client, it's an opportunity.
Wow. Well, of course you chose
where to find it? Fullybooked.ceo. I'm just going to tell you what's in it.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, who's paying attention? Where's the call to action here? No, no, obviously. So one more time, Kat.
Fullybooked.ceo.
You heard it from Kat herself. And obviously what I was going to say is that you chose to over deliver once again, and obviously leave us with a piece of value that we can walk away with and implement, and then be a part of your ecosystem and elevate ourselves. So Kat, I can't thank you enough, guys. This was Cat Stancik into the lab, the lead boss, the business strategist, came in, conquered with me here today, and I'm so happy. I can't wait for this one to be out. And just like that, guys, we are out.
Hold up. We've come to the end of the Real Estate Experiment show, brought to you by my team at investedtalent.com. However, the show will certainly not stop from here, because you will share this with someone who was not in the lab with us. Any value that you found was helpful, any experiment that you feel can benefit someone else who was not here, please share it with them. And number 2, definitely leave us a review. It helps us and it helps other people find our show to benefit from experimenters like yourself, right? We are trying to build an experiment nation where the experiments that you resonate the most with, you will double down on. That is the goal. Now, the reason why the show does not end here is because my team at Invested Talent repurposes this show so that other people who are not consuming the show, either by the medium that you're consuming it now, whether it's a podcast, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, wherever you are, we will take clips from this show and repurpose them and amplify them, put them on multiple social media platforms so that the message and the experiments can be consumed in a way that fits the person best. Now, if you'd like to have the same for your brand, make sure you go to investedtalent.com, where we've helped multiple thought leaders in the real estate space repurpose their content so that they can grow their brand. We specifically work with people who are looking to have an impact, whether you have an existing show or a brand new show, whether it's a podcast, whether it's clips or interviews or episodes. We will take that raw content and repurpose it on multiple social media platforms, because your voice, your experiments need to be heard in the marketplace so that we can all have an impact, so we can impact others and we can all elevate together. On that note, make sure you tune into the next one. Let's build, y'all.